guys, it's Wednesday and I'm back live. It's Free App Wednesdays. Like I said, we will be covering EQs this week. So I got a couple of EQs to look at. And just a reminder, the video release schedule is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We'll be doing free apps. Stay tuned for that series coming up next week, dealing with your computer specs and how it affects your music production, as far as how far you can go with the music, how much you can push that computer. Just kind of giving an understanding of specs and how it affects how far you can go with what you're doing. Processing, building, all that type of stuff. So today, the free apps that we're going to be looking at, free plugins, is number one we have here. It's an EQ called QRange from the developer IKJB. Also, we'll be looking at Blind EQ and also Slick EQ. I got a couple of mentions after that of just free plugins that came out recently, within probably the last 3 to 4 weeks. But let's focus on the EQs, because that's the theme of the week. So for the first one, we have QRange. Matter of fact, let's switch to the DAW and then have a look at that. Have a look at it there in the DAW. There we go. Alright, so with QRange, first thing we have is the interface is resizable, so you can get it nice and big to get a good view of what you're doing. They have a settings menu where you can change how the EQ lines look, thicker lines, get some color hints, things of that nature. You have options for how your spectrum analyzer looks, so it does have a spectrum analyzer. And there's some more stuff in here dealing with latency settings based on what you're doing. If you're either in mixing mode or if you're in mastering mode, the latency settings may matter to you. And then you have a processing mode. I would just go to processing mode and put that at good frequency response, because that's what you want, both while you're listening and of course when you're rendering out your audio file. So pretty standard interface. We have the frequency analyzer here, and then if you notice here, they're giving you 12 bands of EQ. So let me kind of quickly just run through the specs before we dive into the interface. So 12 bands of EQ. Each EQ band has some level of independence, which we'll talk about in a second. They have the different styles of EQ curves. So you have peak, low shelf, high shelf, low cut, high cut. You have different, what is that? The Q factor, the Q curve. You have up to 48 dP per octave of steepness for your curve. So it goes 12, 24, and 48 dB per octave. One of the cool things about this EQ is it is a mid-side EQ, and the mid-side option is per band. So you can go left, you can go right, you can go mid, you can go side per band and process that way. So you could only process the left of the signal, the right of the signal. You can only process the mid or the side per band. So each band can be processing different parts of the mix as far as mid-side, stereo, left, right. It has global gain for your adjustment as far as compensating for your gain that you get after your EQ, or if you need more gain. And that's pretty much it. So let's look at the interface. So we have the 12 bands down here. You click on the number that corresponds with the band to activate it, and you see the nodes pop up there. Hold on. Yes, so from there, we have your frequency range right here. You could dial that in. You could double click and type it in, 20 hertz. You can dial in your gain amount. Of course, you can grab the band yourself and just move it around how you want. If you're hovered over here, you can just roll the mouse wheel to change your Q factor, bandwidth, and you can also dial it in here. Right here where you see the symbol, this is basically how you select the different type of curves that you want. High shelf, low shelf, high cut, low cut, all that good stuff. And your Q factor. So down here where it says stereo is where you can select per band. Per band, you can select if you're going to be processing mid, side, left, right, or stereo. So you see the options down here. And right under here is where you'll have the your different slope amounts. And they give you 3 presets, 12, 24, 48, as mentioned before. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, the cool thing about this is the fact that you can process this. Each band can be doing a different thing. So you could be using this first band to cut some low end out of the highs. Then you could be using this band to do something with the left channel, and so on and so forth. So it's a pretty flexible EQ, and you can really get in there and get some good stuff done. Check that one out. The link for everything is in the description. All right, let's move on to the next thing. Next, we have Slick EQ from Tokyo Dawn Labs. So that's what it looks like. Let's go through some of these notes real quick. Some of the notable features, it has 64-bit processing as far as the audio engine. You only get 3 bands with this EQ, and it has a fixed slope of 18 dB per octave for your high pass. They have these 4 processing modes that I'll talk about in detail, but it's British, American, German, and Soviet. And they have 5 stages of output. I really don't understand what that means. Most likely it's in the manual, but it's just how it outputs your sound. But they just call them linear, silky, mellow, deep, and toasted. So let's look at it in the DAW. So this one is resizable. Let's first go into the options menu. We have some options for how the knob will react. How do you want to dial in your stuff with the knob? So do you want to slide, or do you want to do oval shape motion, all that good stuff? And the sensitivity of your slider, you can affect that here. Under graphics is where you can resize this. Let's put it to 150%. They have FPS. Let's put that to 60. My FPS is currently at 60 for this video, so let's do that. Processing, I'll always go in and check off highest quality render. Rest of the stuff I'll leave alone. So we look at the interface here. We got presets. We have A and B. This is pretty similar because I talked about the Nova EQ on Monday, which is from the same company. So if you notice, the interface is pretty similar as far as just the main interface. So you have A, B. You can use this to copy A to B, and you can switch between A, B settings here. Right here now is where they have the saturation. So you can turn on saturation for this EQ. It has some kind of saturation algorithm. And under here, we have different modes as far as the algorithmic saturation and how that's going to be processed. So that's what the Soviet, American, British, and German. And it'll, I guess, somewhat emulate some of those iconic consoles from those countries, like Neve versus SSL, probably versus API. I don't know what the German one is. Sorry, not the German. I don't know what the Soviet one is. But that's what that is. So you can activate some saturation, and then there's a 6 dB calibrate here. You can change this number, and it affects the amount of saturation. Otherwise, everything is pretty much standard. It's only 3 bands. You got your low, you got your mid, you got your high, and you can turn them on or off. Dial in your frequency, dial in your gain amount, whether you're subtracting or boosting. And over here, we have your high pass filter. And it starts at 10 hertz and goes all the way up to 350 hertz. So you use that how you see fit. And as I said before, that has a fixed slope of 18 dB per octave. So that's the Slick EQ. Is there anything else to mention? Oh, it is a mid-side EQ. So once again, just like the Nova, you have this right here. You hit the stereo button and you have the options for mono, sum and difference, left and right. Sum is the mid, difference is sides. It's just a different way to say it. And then over here we have full equal and live mode. These are dealing with the latency. So you notice when I selected live, it says that we're now at 0 latency. Eco, we're at 16 samples of latency, and at full we're at 183 samples of latency. So depending on if you're using it when you're EQing or mixing, or maybe when you have it on a bus, depending on what you need, you might want to change that if you're experiencing any delays and it's throwing your audio off. So that's it. They have also automatic gain compensation here. You could turn that on or turn that off, so that as you're boosting and cutting, it's going to maintain the original level that's coming into the EQ. So you're not getting any loudness changes from what you're doing. You're just affecting the tone and the frequency shape of the sound without getting any boosting or loss of volume. So that's pretty much it, guys. The third one we have here, let's go straight to it, is the BlindFold EQ. So this one has a pretty simple interface and a simple concept. It is resizable, and this is from Audio Thing. They have pretty decent plugins. So the main thing with this one is their thought process is they want you to EQ without looking at anything, as far as looking at numbers. So no frequency numbers, no dB numbers, no Q numbers. It's just more about you tweaking the knobs and listening to the sound, and just getting there by just turning knobs and listening. So that's the concept behind the BlindFold EQ. It's you EQing with blindfolds on. It works for certain things, certain tasks. I think if you're just going for shaping a sound and really just, trying to get a vibe out of a sound, and you really don't know what you're going for, this might help, because it's just a different approach. You're not really paying attention to numbers. If you're doing something surgical or something more precise, you might not want to go with that. But it's a cool concept. They have some presets here. The interface is pretty straightforward. And that's it. BlindFold EQ. So the quick mentions that I have, these are not EQs, but just to talk about some other ones real quick. This is a quick, pretty recent release. It's called Style Organ Basic. It's a synth organ, so it's not going to give you like realistic, you know, Hammond B4 or pipe organ or anything like that type of sound. It's very synthetic, but it has a sound, it has a vibe, it has a place and a purpose. So check that out. Giant Verb is another one that came out recently. I think it came out right at the beginning of the year, if not the end of 2020. It's a reverb. That's pretty much it. And the last one, with a quick mention, is Tiny F, which is a pretty simple guitar amp simulator. So that's it, guys. Check those plugins out. Link is in the description. Remember, the content release schedule has changed. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'll be coming apparently live every time with free apps, free plugins. Sometimes I will be doing applications. I do have free applications. That's why I call it free apps. But sometimes I have actual computer applications that are free. That ties into music production, and we'll get into those. I've talked about them before, but never live. So Friday I'll be back diving into some more EQs to wrap up the week of free EQs, and I got some nice ones coming up, so definitely check that out, guys. But that's it. Thanks for watching, and as always, you will see me in the next video. By the way, stay tuned. Like I said, that series is coming next week. I'm not sure if I'm gonna start it next Tuesday or Thursday, but one of those days I will be doing it. I'll have more information at the beginning of the week, definitely. But the series on computer specs and how it relates to your music production, it's gonna be done in video series in parts. So the first video will be dealing with the CPU. I think after that will be RAM. Then we'll go into video cards, how that's important. It's not that important, but it still is important. Yeah, I have the whole thing outlined, and there's some other topics that I talk about dealing with it. So we'll dive in and get sticky with that. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and as always, you'll see me in the next video.